Hi, and welcome to the review of round 4 of the simulation. And I see here that most companies we have, let's see, go down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 companies have close to or over 1,900 points. We have a number of companies over 2,000 points, which means that they're very much on target to receive the 2,500 points and the full points for this uh, simulation at the end of round 6 if they keep on where they're going, so the progress. And you see some of these teams are at very high percentile ranks in their performance, so our class is doing very well indeed. And if we look at gross profit margins, we have our first two companies who've reached 60% or above in gross profit margins, which is fantastic. All companies should be striving to be at least 60% head in round 5 or higher. So if you're in the lower bracket here, 50 percentile, you have to move up. Anybody who's in this 50 percentile bracket here, you're striving to get at least 60 percentile. If you've already reached 60 percentile, you want to get to 70 percentile within these next two rounds. And if you're the teams who we have a few teams here. Remember, we started at 40%. If you're still in the 40 percentile or lower, you are not doing well. Your investors and the owners of this company expect you to be better than when you started. You took over from the existing management who couldn't break 40% gross profit margins, and a few companies have gone backwards, and a few companies have only improved it a few percentage points. And everything I've been saying, all the documentation I've been giving you, is that you have to increase profit margins between 2 and 5% every round. And if you did the high end, increase your gross profit margins by 5% for 4 rounds, you would have been at 60%, which a couple teams have done, and they're at the top of the points and returns of the simulation. So that's really critical to doing well in the simulation. So how do you increase profit margins? Uh, uh, very simply, you increase prices or reduce costs or a combination of both. This should not be a question for a business student to ask me how to increase profit margins. You're a business student. That's pretty much what business is about. So we see here that as far as net profits per team, net profits have continued to rise through the 4 years, as profits seem to do when the industry is growing at double-digit revenue. Okay, so we see profits have been growing for most teams. Points have remember I said the first round is the easiest round to make points because you're coming off a year-over-year comparison to a very ineffective management team. The following rounds, we're trying to average at least 400 points per round, and most teams are doing that. Some teams are having a problem managing their points. And again, it all stems from profits, because these profits, gross profits will help increase the points of operational net profits, all your total asset returns and return equities, and it just permeates through the whole point system of the simulation. And we see stock price. We have, again, a company now the same company is the first company to break 100 all the way to $113 per share, doing very well. And we have a new sales. LI Speed is at 697 million in sales. So a number of teams have done quite well to improve their sales. And we have a few teams that have improved their sales quite dramatically year over year. So teams doing well. And of course, earnings per share. We have a few companies down here struggling, but by and large, most companies have improved their earnings per share. Look at this company, went from $7 to $11. Quite an improvement in earnings per share round over round. So it's the same old story here. So let's look at the practice demo I've been playing along with you guys. And so you guys are currently in year 5. My practice game is in year 5 as well. And last round I only had 316 points, and I explained that I was building. It was a building round where I was trying to collect the right assets I needed, and position my company so I could increase prices and lower costs. And you should always review your assessment. I have people asking me questions about the simulation, and I point them right back to the assessment page and the information here that to improve if you want to improve in any of these areas. It says so right here. So total asset turnover, I get some questions on this. And again, I just go in and I read this. This is don't buy extra operational plants you can't use. Make sure your operational capacity is 80%. I would also say try not to have unsold inventory, because if you don't sell all the cars you forecast to sell, that winds up in your inventory, which is an asset, and then that's going to bloat your assets and reduce your total asset turnover. So this is an area that most people struggle with because you're building, you're buying, you're putting up a lot of assets every round as you're growing your company. And again, you need to go to the industry charts to look at your. You want to look at your no, I want the performance charts. I'm sorry. Because you want to look at, under performance charts, you want to look at see how your forecasts are going. And, you could see your actual. So here I gave up 200 cars I could have sold. Here it was pretty close. And here I could have sold an additional 200. So sometimes you can't always be 100% accurate, but you don't want to be so inaccurate that you create a huge amount of extra inventory or you give up a huge amount of your sales to other competitors, sorry. So going into the fifth round, I now have more operational cost reductions due to the heavy investments I made last round. So if I go back to my overview, I see that my gross profit margins were 58%. And I need to definitely follow the advice I gave you and try to get above 60% on my profit margins. Let's see where I can get. Don't copy my numbers. I'm just throwing numbers in here just to kind of, oh wow, I got a pretty high here. So let me increase my and for sedan, okay, over 60%. Okay, 62, which isn't bad. Just trying to get over that. Want to get over 60. So it's gonna. Okay, so it's very hard on truck. So I'll just try to get to 60. Truck's a difficult one. This is engine power. And again, there's no strategy here. I'm just throwing some numbers in. You could probably do a better job laying your numbers out compared to the importance factor. I am just trying to get above 60% on all my cars to improve my gross profit margin, following my own advice of increasing my profit margins. This takes a little bit longer, but I am going to review the new ranges. Advertising expectations have gone up as more and more competitors have advertised more heavily and as the market has expanded. So I'm going to pause here and meet you in production because this takes a while. I don't want to waste your time. Okay, I'm in production. So here I am always striving to have 100% utilization of my factories. So even though I'm buying more factories this round because I'm increasing my forecasts, you can see that my current inventory is very low, and it's one of the ways that I am able to maintain my assets more efficiently is more accurately forecasting, and at the same time more efficiently utilizing my factories so I don't build. I see some students, they build a whole factory just to make 100 cars, and that's $20 million investment. You're only going to get revenues worth 100 cars on. So it might be worth giving up those 100 cars to save the $10 million to build that factory because your capacity, it lowers your capacity utilization. Okay, so right now I have 24. So I'm going to essentially double my operational investments so I can further maintain my profit margins moving forward and get my 100 points for doubling my operational investments here. And I go to the finance page, and first I see that I have a nice surplus, so I might as well buy back. Now in this video here, I'm not going over, I'm just giving you the very basics of how to compete. So what I did again, I did my sales, main goal, trying to get my profit margins up, trying to keep my forecasts accurate, and my marketing, trying to keep my marketing efficient, not over marketing and not under marketing in production. I'm trying to make sure my capacity utilization is on target. And in finance, I'm trying to retire where I have money to retire funds, and I'm trying to make sure that I have a surplus. Now I have a very big surplus here. Probably too big. I mean, other companies, if you had the time, you should look into maybe some increasing your forecast and increasing your marketing to match the fact that you're increasing your forecasts. So that's something that you should consider, that if you have this extra money, maybe it might make sense that um, increase your marketing to up your capacity utilization, and then thereby selling more cars, having more utilization, and having a higher marketing and it'll be an investment in the vehicles to sell more. Uh, so you should really look to see. It's kind of gets hard in rounds 5 and 6. You're going to have a big surplus no matter what you do, but you may want to look at where can I reinvest some of that surplus? Does it make sense? So that's something you can do, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. But one thing is, if I was going to reinvest it, I might go back to sales and say, you know, um, maybe I could increase the sales of some of my vehicles by more heavily advertising. You know, so that way develop more demand for the vehicles. And well, maybe I'll do an experiment. I'll try to increase the sales forecast on my economy by, since I have a pretty high profit margin, maybe I'll try and do another 1,000 vehicles. But if I'm going to do that, then I'm going to put extra money into my marketing, and then I'm going to have to build another a factory, increase my, so I did a little experiment on I'm not going to do it for all the vehicles, but for this one, I'll put in extra marketing, see if I can jump up my sales to close to 6,000 on this vehicle since I had that surplus. So now, so my surplus is actually maintained because the extra cars I'm selling more than make up for the extra cost of investing in that economy class. So let's run around and see what my results are. So now I'm running round 5, and looks like I got 430 points, which is good. I was able to increase my profit margins from 58 to 64%. I was able to reduce my debt, increase my revenue, increase my equity. So I had, okay, so I lost points on the forecast of my economy class. My points were good on the other classes. So I got the 430 points, which is really well for the 5th round. And if we look over here in production, you'll see that I had 627 economy class cars unsold. So my little experiment kind of failed. I only sold an extra 400. I should have really, I guess, more greatly increased my advertising. So that's sort of the danger of trying to increase production, increase your advertising. You may have this additional inventory of unsold vehicles, and that's going to result in, if you look at my total asset turnover. Let's see. Here it is. I went down a little bit because I bloated my assets, but still 430 points is a fine result for round 5. Okay, so I hope this little review of entries for round 5 help you fill in some blanks of some questions you might have about the simulation and help you to perform better. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing your performance in round 5, which is due at the on our usual day and time. And best of luck.